Last couple weeks before the retreat, we were diving into 1st and 2nd Timothy, which if you may remember is a set of letters written by the Apostle Paul to kind of his protege, Timothy, who is pastoring a church. And Paul is kind of coaching him because Timothy, even though he was in his 30s in the culture, that was really young to be the leader of a place. And the first couple weeks, we were looking at some passages in 1 Timothy. This week and next week, we're going to be looking at a couple moments from the second letter that Paul wrote to Timothy. And just to give you a little context, at this point, when Paul's writing this second letter, Paul's in jail. Paul got locked up for preaching about Jesus, and because at this point, persecution was starting to ramp up. Persecution was starting to, this is when people were killing the Christians. They were cutting them off from business and cutting them out of their families. And it was really starting to get intense. And for a lot of the Christians, it would be even kind of scary that Paul is one of our big voices for coaching us and telling us what to do and leading us. And he's in jail. What chance do the rest of us have? And yet Paul wrote a lot of incredible letters from prison to continue to minister, to continue to coach, to continue to challenge. And so this letter is Paul writing to Timothy going, hey, here's some ways I can help you out. Here's some ways that you need to think about ministry and how to serve and what to do. And in this week, we're going to look at a passage where he talks a little bit about hey, here's how you need to lead people. And let me ask you guys this question. How do people respond to how they're treated, right? For example, if you treat somebody kindly, how do you expect them to respond? Versus if you come at somebody kind of rude or angry or judgmental, how does how we treat people impact how they respond? It's not a trick question.
A lot.
It impacts a lot. How so? Yeah, if you're positive, you get a positive reaction back. If you're negative, you get a negative reaction. I'm an easygoing dude. There was years ago, I had a phone call with somebody, and all Heather heard was me get really aggressive and really angry, and she thought kind of rude. And I think it was kind of justified. To give some context, I was advocating for people who had been abused, and I didn't like how the lawyer was coming at it. And but Heather wasn't hearing any other side of the conversation of what this lawyer was saying they were going to do and treat the victims from the mission. It was just, all she heard was me, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, because I'm on the phone, and I got off the phone, I was like, you don't know what this person was saying. I am shocked at how composed I stayed, right? Haley's exactly right. We kind of respond to what we're given, don't we? And why are we wired that way? Why do we react to the way people come at us? Why does that impact the way we react? I will wait forever. I know. Why do you think we react that way?
React to what?
I'll repeat why do we, when people come at us rude, why do we react angrily? If they come at us nice, why do we react nicely? Why is it that it triggers a response one way or the other, Kenzie?
Because we're prideful. And if
We're prideful.
You're wrong, our immediate reaction is, heck no, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Mercy?
Because we treat people how we think they deserve to be treated.
We treat people how we feel like they deserve to be treated. Yeah. Yeah, we feed off other people's energy. Yeah, I laughed when Kenzie said pride, because I don't know how many of you have gotten in arguments with a sibling. I used to get in arguments with my younger brother. We fought a lot. And sometimes we would get in an argument over something, and then I would realize partway through, he's right. And I tell you what, in those moments, I'm not proud of it. I would have died before I was going to let him know he was right. Like I doubled down, I gaslit, like I did everything I had to do to win that argument. It's not right, but that's what I was doing. And here's what part of what I think I want to suggest today that Paul is kind of suggesting to Timothy is he's going, hey, how we respond to arguments reveals what's in our hearts. How we respond to conflict, how we respond to how people come to us also kind of reveals what's going on in our hearts. And you guys kind of touched on some of that. And if we react with hostility, we're almost guaranteed we're going to get a hostile response back. But we can also, even when somebody's being hostile to us, we can still choose to respond in a non-hostile kind of way. There's this, in 2 Timothy chapter 2, Paul writes to Timothy in verses 22 through 24, he says, run from anything that stimulates youthful lusts. The whole context of this passage in chapter 2 is Timothy just going like, hey, here's how you need to lead. Here's how you need to be in the face of this persecution. In the face of, there were some false teachers, like people trying to get Timothy's authority, but they were pointing people in the wrong direction. There's like stuff going on. Paul isn't just writing this because he's like, hey, Timothy, you know what occurred to me today? Like, hypothetically, if there was ever a negative situation and somebody was mistreating you, here's how you could handle it. Paul's reacting because Timothy has most likely written him a letter and been like, hey, these guys are doing these things. How do I handle this? And so Paul is writing back and saying, run from anything that stimulates youthful lusts. Instead, pursue righteous living. He's going, hey, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. Don't you give in to what they're doing. You focus on righteous living, faithfulness, love, and peace. Enjoy the companionship of those who call on the Lord with pure hearts. He's going, hey, man, like lean on the other people that are following God in the way that I'm telling you need to be following God. And then verse 23, he says, again, I say, don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only start fights. A servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but must be kind to everyone, be able to teach, and be patient with difficult people. Paul is saying to Timothy, man, if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be a follower of God that honors God, you have to resist your natural impulse to, man, when there's tea, did I use that right? I'm pretty hip and cool. When there's something going on, when there's drama going on, and it's not worth fighting over, Paul's going, Timothy, man, you have to resist every natural urge in your body that wants to hear that wants to get involved in it, that wants to be like, oh, no, he didn't, right? Like, they said what? He did what? She went where? Right? Like, Paul's going, hey, if that doesn't matter, do not lean into that. Like, don't fuel that. Don't let that become a distraction to you. He's saying you need to be careful about what you're getting into. He goes, you've got to be kind to everyone. You've got to be able to teach. You've got to be patient with difficult people. And there's three things that really jump out at me from this passage. Three things that I think we can write down and go, man, this is what we can learn about how we handle drama with people around us, or even on a bigger picture. Right? Whether it's with fellow Christians, whether it's with people in school, whether it's all these places. If we want to honor God, if we want to be the type of person whose life makes people go, there's something different about them. Right? What is it about them that, it's because they're becoming more and more like Jesus? The first thing I want to point out is this idea of pursue peace instead of drama. One of the questions I was kind of thinking about is, like, if you guys think, high school, lots of drama, right? There's always something going on. There's always somebody to talk about. There's always somebody taking off somebody. There's always some relationship that's in conflict. There's some situation. Like, there's always something going on. Your friend, you this, that, whatever. There's always something going on, right? Like, are any of you living in a drama-free school or zone? No. Even if you're homeschooled, there's drama going on at home. Right? Like, I know, I was homeschooled. That was the same kid I was just talking about before. That I was never going to, like, I would die before I would admit he was right. There's always drama. And here's the question I wanted to ask you. Do you think that drama settles down when you get older? That when you become an adult, that it's going to be calmer, that there's going to be less drama? Yes or no? Did you do this? You're like, maybe a little bit. Do you guys want to know why? Sometimes people ask me, they're like, why are you still a youth pastor? I'm the oldest pastor at this church now, again. And sometimes people are like, why are you a youth pastor? And one of my joking reply is, like, I expect teenagers to do, like, you guys your brains aren't even finished until you're like 25. That's when they finish developing. I expect you to do like stuff. Like, it makes sense to me. And I have a lot of patience with that, unless you're my kid. Right, Zach? Yeah, it's brutal. You know what drives me up the wall? Is when I sit down in my office with a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old dude who's doing something stupid and has some sort of drama, and everything in me wants to be like, you are a grown man. Like, why are you doing stuff that our middle schoolers know better than to do? Right? Like, here's the reality. Drama doesn't go away. Adults like to gossip and argue and talk about each other and backstab each other as much as any kid. In workplaces, in school, like Andrea is shaking her head. She's like, yeah, I work in a preschool and it is crazy, right? That's my impersonation of Andrea. It doesn't get any less the older we get. And so what I want to suggest to you as we think about this idea of pursuing peace instead of drama, and this has kind of been a reoccurring theme, I feel like, in the last couple of years, I keep saying to you guys is, man, your teen years, you set the patterns and habits that impact the rest of your life. And I really regret, as a teenager, there were a lot of things that I knew I should do better in, but I would tell myself, I'm going to do better in that when I'm an adult, when it counts, when I'm older, when I'm more serious, when I'm more this, whatever. And this is another one of those areas where the habits you set now will impact how you handle conflict or pursuing peace for the rest of your life. As an adult, it will be easier to pursue peace instead of drama if you build that habit now. Right? Paul says that we're to pursue peace. And this word pursue that he uses in this verse, it's a verb. It's an action word. Right? It's not something, man, I hope today is going to be a good day with no drama and no tea. No, it's pursuing it. It means that I am not going to contribute to drama. Right? When I inevitably have beef with Claire because she is a punk. Amen. If I'm going to pursue peace, I'm going to go directly to Claire and be like, hey, we need to talk about this. Why are you being a punk? Right? I'm going to... Pursuing drama means I would go to Henry first and be like, Henry, did you hear what Claire did? Yeah, it's crazy. Again. Look at him. He gets it. And then we both go over to Bree and we're like, Bree, did you hear what she did? Yeah, it's crazy. And then we're talking to Ethan. And like, that is spreading drama all over the place. But we do that a lot, right? And we even sometimes pretend like, hey, Kenzie, I need some advice on how to handle Claire being a horrible person again. Like, you're not even going to believe, I don't want to gossip. I just need your advice on this, okay? She said some stuff about you, and it was not cool. Poor Claire, right? Pursuing peace is an action thing, right? Like, what am I doing there? I'm actively pursuing drama. It might be a different situation. Maybe Claire is having beef with Kenzie because of that stuff Kenzie was just saying. And Claire comes to me, like, I could, now as a youth pastor, like, sometimes I do help with stuff, right? But let's say she's coming to me in a way that's more gossipy and is creating more drama than not. Like, pursuing peace in that moment is not just me not saying anything. Right? Because sometimes we avoid conflict by just being like, yeah, wow, what? No. And then we kind of walk away and we're like, I didn't say anything, I didn't agree with anything, I didn't do anything. But what have I communicated to that person? They're going to walk away and be like, yeah, McNutt agrees too. Like, it was crazy that they did that. Right? That I have an opportunity in that moment to pursue peace by even being like, hey, I'm really not comfortable having this conversation, right? Like, this feels a little bit more like gossip and furthering drama than solving this. And if we both say we love Jesus, what are we going to do to get a peaceful solution to this? This is why Paul was telling Timothy in there, he says, hey, don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only start fights. Pursuing peace is an active thing, right? That as a believer, as a Christian, we should be part of the solution to bringing peace and harmony, not part of fueling the drama. Kind of building on that, the second thing to think about is avoid the small stuff, right? In the context of this letter, Paul is probably talking to Timothy about disagreements and stuff going on in the church over different teachings about God and Jesus. And here's the deal. Christians get heated with each other all the time. That's why there are 1 billion different churches, right? Somebody asked me the other day, they were like, what kind of Baptists are you guys? And I was like, and I go, that's kind of a good question because there are so many different types of Baptist churches. There's American Baptist, there's Southern Baptist, there's General Baptist, there's Conference Baptist, I couldn't even, there's so many types, right? Because even just Baptists, we keep disagreeing with each other and starting new types of Baptist churches, right? That Christians, as much as we're supposed to get along, Christians butt heads in social media has made it worse. How many of you guys have seen old Christians doing crazy stuff on social media that you're like, you're a grown dude, why are you doing this on social media? Yeah, some of you are raising your hands. Some of you are like, I'm not on social media, or I'm not on the old people's social medias. If you go on Facebook, it's all depressing, right? That Christians get invited, and Paul's going, man, first off, as Christians, we need to think about, what's actually worth fighting over? And here's what I want to suggest to you, is that I think a lot of times we fight over the wrong stuff. We fight over politics. We fight over little rules and different things. And the stuff Paul is saying is worth hey, the stuff that we actually need to be using our energy on is pointing people to God. Right? And so me weighing in on, if you look at my social media, I really rarely weigh in on political things. I don't say vote for this person or vote for that person or tip my hat because I don't want to create drama and use up my energy in a space. I'm going to vote carefully and I'm going to weigh my faith and what I think is where I need to go and what I need to do. But if I'm going to make waves, if I'm going to take a stand on something, if I'm going to push something hard, man, that needs to be something that points people to God. And that's why Paul is telling Timothy, hey, don't waste your time with ignorant arguments, but you do need to weigh in when it's something that's making a difference of whether or not people are getting pointed to God. Are there major issues in God's kingdom? Man, in God's kingdom, there's room for a lot of differences of opinions on a lot of things. We can have different understandings on a lot of things and still worship God together and end up in the same place. There's only a few things where it's really, actually, yes, it does have to be about Jesus, right? There's very few things. Here's the last thing I want to point out that I see from this passage. Imitate God's kindness and patience. Imitate God's kindness and patience. And kindness is super hard, right? Especially when we're interacting with someone that is not acting kind. Part of why I was calling out Claire is because that's a ridiculous scenario, right? Claire's super kind. I've never had a disrespectful moment with Claire. Some of you, no, I'm not doing that, right? I'm going to pursue kindness right now. It's easy to be kind back to someone, even if it's something like you got to go to them and tell them something hard because you care about them and you're worried about them. It's easy to be kind in that moment when they're taking it well and being kind back. It's hard to be kind to someone when they are not kind, when they're being volatile, when they're being aggressive, when they're wrong about it, when they've wronged you. And not only are they not admitting it, they're not apologizing, they're not backing down, they're trying to come back and be like, no, actually, this is your fault, right? It's hard in those moments to stay kind. And Paul is saying, man, we need to imitate God's kindness and his patience. Because here's the incredible thing. When we respond to aggression with calmness, with kindness, with niceness, it deflates the situation, doesn't it? A few years ago, I was reading a book on conflict and how the brain development and how the brain works and all these. It was super fascinating to me because all of us have felt this, but I don't know if you know, it's literally a biological response that when somebody comes at you aggressively, they're mad, they yell at you, they say something angry or whatever. You know that swell of emotion that you feel in that moment? There's just like it's like a tidal wave that just crashes through. And it's oftentimes like in that moment, my gut reaction is to call a name, to say something mean back. I'm going to push back. I'm going to fight back. I'm going to say something because somebody comes at me aggressive. That is my first impulse. It's actually a biological reaction. In your brain, there are hormones that get triggered in that moment that create this anger, like I'm going to puff up and I'm going to fight back. And it's almost like and what they've discovered as they've studied brains in neuroscience is that there's something like a 30 to 90 second wave of emotion. And that first reaction is just the anger. And the problem is that's what escalates fights. Because Henry insults me. I get mad. Now I feel this tidal wave of emotion and anger. And so I fire back. Well, now he feels a tidal wave of emotion and anger. And he fires back at me. And then we're just like, it's a tsunami of waves crashing into each other, escalating this thing. Like how many of us have been in an argument that just seemed to spin out of control so fast that later we look back and go like, what in the world happened? Right? Like I don't even know why I reacted. It's science, like it's biology. But here's what the counselors that are studying, the therapists that are studying this brain, they go, man, if you can just pause if you can control your reaction for 30, 40 seconds, that's why they're like, count to 10, take a breath. If you can pause, that tidal wave of emotion is going to fade. And the biggest learning for me was realizing, man, when I'm in a tense situation, when I'm in a heated moment, yeah, middle schoolers, what can you do? I need to pause. If I'm slow to response, my immediate reaction will fade, and I'll think of something better to say in that moment. Right? That Paul is going, hey, imitate God's kindness and patience even in the ugly situations. Because if we're able to, instead of feeding that tidal wave of emotion, I react with something soft or kind or patient, maybe not immediately, but as I continue to do that, that's going to deflate the argument. Because one of you guys said it, we feed off each other's energy. Don't we? If I'm excited about something, other people are going to get excited about it. If I'm stressed about something, people around me are going to start to feel anxious or stressed. If I'm heated or angry, people around me are going to start feeling angry. And if I can imitate Jesus, if I can be more and more like him and just breathe and have a kind response, even in a situation where everything in me is saying, punch back, then I'm going to be able to deflate that situation. That I'll be able to be kind in that moment. Now, I'm not saying let people walk all over you. Right? That we can be kind in a firm way. Right? That we can walk away from a situation. That we can go get help from someone else if we need to, if it's not a safe situation. To be clear, this is not imitate God's kindness and patience and get yourself beat up. Right? Leave that situation. Leave a dangerous situation. What I am saying is, what can we do to not escalate these kinds of things? To pursue kindness and patience. On your paper, I put another verse in 1 Corinthians 1:10, which is really a great verse about unity. I would encourage you guys this week, as you have some quiet time, take your papers and just kind of rethink this, revisit this. I put a few reflection questions on there. We're not going to do these now, but those could become a quiet time moment this week where you pray through these two passages, consider what Paul and what God is teaching you in these verses, and answer these questions like, what can I do to grow in light of this? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your word. And God, teachings like today's are so much easier to say than to actually live out. And God, we ask that you would help us to be people that are like you, that we pursue peace, that we avoid drama, that we de-escalate situations rather than inflame them, that each one of us would begin to have the reputation of being people that seek peace, that create peace, rather than destroy peace. I ask that you'd help each one of us this week in school and work and sports and activities and clubs and our homes and wherever we are, to honor you, to become more and more like you, to be able to be peacemakers in these situations for your glory. In your name, amen.